Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com and State Farm. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
Thank you, Alec Webb. Welcome, everyone, to MotorWeek podcast number 214. And we're coming to you from Studio C at MotorWeek World Headquarters. And I am joined today by the illustrious writer-producer, Brian Robinson.
Hello, John.
And the highly competent road test producer, Ben Davis.
Well, thank you, sir.
And then our extraordinary online content coordinator, Greg Carlos.
I thought you were going to go to pretty good there. Extraordinary. Like you were going down.
No. We're delighted to have all three of you join me because otherwise it would be incredibly boring. We've got a lot of cars to talk about. We're even going to talk about some of our long-term vehicles. A lightning round. We got a viewer question from Clint. We're going to see if anybody's got a rant and rave, but let's start first with the 2020 Toyota Corolla Hybrid and also the XLE model. Those are two models of the all-new from the ground-up Corolla we've recently tested. It's worth noting that even if you're all of a sudden out there yawning, you got to remember that this is the best-selling car of all time. It's an enormously important car to Toyota globally and also to anyone that's interested in small cars, and they still sell a lot of them in this country. So with that said, impressions, everyone, now that it's finally gotten the hybrid treatment in the U.S.?
A lot of people like to hate on the Corolla. It's not as much fun to drive as maybe a Civic or certainly a Mazda 3. But it is crazy comfortable as it has always been. And
crazy reliable, too.
The big thing this year, as you mentioned, you can get a hybrid now. It's now based on the same platform as the Camry and the Prius. So now you can get the Prius's drivetrain in the Corolla, which I think is a win-win for everyone. You get the fuel economy of the Prius, but in a car that looks like something you'd want to drive every day. So
and better if you have to carry a carpool, it's got a better back seat. You've got a real trunk. It's got a lot of advantages actually.
And they upped it in as far as the interior. I think the interior is a lot nicer than it's ever been as well.
Now, I haven't seen it, but also the XLE model, which was there any sporty aspect to that at all?
No, that's more of the luxury trim. They do have an XSE, which gets a new 2-liter engine. Mm-hmm. I haven't driven that. I don't think we've had one here.
Juicy.
I don't know if anybody drove it on the preview or not. I can't remember. But
did you feel that they in the XLE that they had infused it with a little more upscale trendiness? Or
absolutely.
Yeah. Materials or what?
Feel free to chime in. Anybody else?
Yeah. Did you seem like you got it? Corolla lover.
Did it integrate with your flip phone?
No, that's why I wear earbuds.
We're all having a good time.
I will tell you that I thought it was the first Corolla I've driven that didn't feel tinny, like it was designed on the cheap.
I concur.
And I think that's the chassis, the fact that they're now sharing it with the Camry. And for those of you that aren't aware of what's going on in the world, most car companies are trying to build one chassis that will do everything. Large, small, intermediate, EVs, gas engines, with different degrees of success so far, but Toyota's done a pretty good job. Yeah. I thought it felt like a very solid car.
Yeah, for sure. That hybrid, I think we might even still be underselling it. I think that might be the one to have.
I think so.
Forget about the hatchback or even the XSE, but if you're just trying to get transportation and you don't care about driving too much,
and
that
efficiency,
pretty. And we hit those 50 numbers easily, hitting the highway, everything we were doing, and I mean we're talking actual numbers that said in the 50s,
right?
And we weren't even trying.
Cheap wheels too, man.
It is the latest example of why mid-size cars aren't selling. First of all, the new Corolla, I think, actually qualifies as a mid-size car by the government.
That's
so
correct.
They've gotten bigger and encroached on the mid-size realm, and people are saying, if I'm going to buy a sedan, I can spend less money and go, quote-unquote, compact and still be have almost as big a car. Okay. The hybrid was a little more. It wasn't that much more expensive, was it? You couldn't get it with every trim, I think, but it was still
as a
priced
single
in the low
LE
20s.
trim, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't sparse by any means.
No.
It had the big
It was
screen.
like mid-level.
Yeah. I mean, it was well equipped.
Absolutely.
Now let's flip over to another small car immediately, obviously in a very different class, the 2019 Mercedes-Benz, A-Class. The latest effort for Mercedes to sell a small car in America. Obviously, it does very well in Europe and other countries around the world, but they've never had a lot of success here in this country. Anybody want to comment? 2-liter turbo 4, which is not unusual, 7-speed DCT transmission, 4MATIC available, so all-wheel drive, you can get it that way. Brian? Greg?
Yeah, piggybacking off of what you said there, this is the first time the A-Class is made as a sedan anywhere. We've never had an A-Class here.
It was a hatchback.
We've had the CLA, which is technically a different vehicle.
Yeah.
The A-Class hatchback we have as the GLA SUV, which also underpins the Infiniti, was it Q30?
QX30.
So anyway,
QX30.
This is the first time we've had the A-Class sedan or A-Class chassis as a car in the U.S. The first time it's been made available as a sedan anywhere. And I thought it was quite nice. Compared to the previous entry-level model CLA, which this is cheaper by about $500.
They've had various small cars on the market here before. I remember, what was it, the 190?
190E.
190E. And the response I always got from people that went to look at it is that it looked like they tried to take, I hate to say it, an inexpensive car and stuff it full of Mercedes accoutrements to charge you $10,000 more than you probably should pay. Did this car overcome that? Did you feel like you were in a genuine Mercedes, or did you feel like you were in something less?
I was pretty impressed with it myself. Like the CLA previous was a good step. It felt better than entry level. This one feels every bit as good as a C-Class. I mean, the interior.
That's the comment I was looking for.
Yeah. Here in the last few years, I think Mercedes-Benz deserves some credit for upping their styling game. They were kind of falling by the wayside a little bit, but these last few models, the A-Class included, look really nice on the outside. Like you were just talking about, the interior on our test model felt great. I mean, all the technology won. I think it actually debuted the MBUX system in America. So that works great. It's fun to drive. I think we should also mention the one that we have that'll be on our test coming up here was around $50,000. It's a lot of money in that category, but according to them, you can get one in the low 30s. And important to mention that it's front-wheel drive based, and then 4MATIC is available, which sends, I think, like 50% to the rear wheels at times.
And that's hugely important for anybody that lives in the Northeast or thinks they're going to need it.
Sure.
I thought they did a great job with it. I think it's easily their best small car effort today.
I think it beats the CLA big time.
Big time.
Big time.
Big time.
As big time.
Now we're going to touch on a couple of vehicles that we get in our long-term fleet. I should explain for those of you that aren't familiar, we get a variety of vehicles that we keep for longer than the traditional week or 2 weeks that we have a normal test car at our shop. Some stay for 3 months, some stay for 6, some stay for a full year. And we've got 3 that we're going to just let anybody at the table who wants to make any comments on. We'll start with probably the most... I say the vehicle that makes the most people jealous that we drive, the new Porsche Macan S.
Yep, that's a good weekend car. It's just striking. The package that we got was the Macan S, which has the V6 turbo,
3-liter turbo.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. Sounds pretty good. We got big old fat tires all around, so it's planted all the time. I mean, you can throw that thing around like a car, and it
drives like a Porsche.
Big exhaust pipes too.
Yeah, it's something I realized today dropping my daughter off at daycare was the back seats are a little bit small. I don't spend a lot of time back there, but having a rear-facing car seat, it fits, but the passenger might not be super comfortable in the front seat because of it.
You got to have a seat all the way
you have
forward.
To put the seat, not all the way forward, but
a good bit.
I mean, my wife's tall too, so maybe we're not the best people to test the seat for an average family. But
for a compact SUV, I was shocked how large the cargo area is.
Yeah, the back is
it's
a lot.
Very generous.
And just the fact that you can get that 3-liter V6 turbo. Everything in that segment
Right.
working with a 2-liter i4 at most. So it's
Makes
fun
you
to
feel
nail
good
the
inside.
throttle on that thing.
Makes you feel good inside. Benny, anything?
I haven't driven that one yet. I've been having some lengthy vacations here lately, and
Relative.
Well,
You're
always
going
I
to
get
just
pushed
have
out
to
of that.
get your wheel time.
I'm going
in.
to take it tonight, and I'll report back next.
Stay tuned.
Spent
Move
a lot
on.
of time in the Outlander, though. When we get to that one, I'll take the.
Yeah,
Just
I
go
think
to
we
it
all
now.
have a lot of time to talk
We'll
about.
go
Let's
out of
let's
order.
touch on let's touch on the Altima. We'll leave the Outlander
Okay.
to last. The Nissan Altima we've had in for several months. I think it's interesting. We were talking earlier about how cars like the Corolla and even the A-Class are eating into the midsize class, which means if you're going to stay in the midsize class, you've got to step your game up. You got to get bigger. You got to add more bells and whistles. The Altima has long been probably third bestseller in the segment, but they did so with more features than the others had at any given price point, and they have a good reliability record. This is a really nice car.
Yeah. Comfortable,
it's-
like all Nissans
Yeah.
tend to be recently. We have all-wheel drive, which was new
Again,
for
it's the
Nissan.
first for them.
You can't
from
get
that
it,
car.
right? Yeah, you can't get it with the 2-liter variable compression turbo, which is the new engine
The
for that
Infinity
car,
engine.
right? So you're with the 2.5-liter i4, but I mean, I said it. It's plenty of power,
Yeah.
and then you get the all-wheel drive, which, as we mentioned before, is comforting for a lot of people, and ourselves included. A lot of times,
I'm definitely looking forward to wintertime to see how that all-wheel drive system does, just because I know somebody who recently bought Legacy, and they said they weren't really even a Subaru fan, but they wanted a sedan, and they wanted all-wheel drive.
Right.
And then I was like, what about the Altima? And he didn't even know.
Didn't know
that-
about it.
Yeah, that you offered all-wheel drive. And I was like, well, the Subaru, you're probably better off with the Subaru because their all-wheel drive system is so good. So I haven't really driven the Altima in the snow yet, but I'm really looking forward to checking that out this winter.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken a long time for someone in the bottom to middle of the price market to really start offering sedans with all-wheel drive to compete with Subaru, and they haven't so far. It hasn't really hurt Subaru at all. So,
And I will say the tech interface, touchscreen and all, much better than any other Nissan that I've been in prior.
it's
agreed.
Yeah. Okay, now everybody's sort of biting at the bit to talk about our third long-term, the new Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV plug-in hybrid. Long time coming. This is a vehicle that was talked about and shown for 3 or 4 years before it actually made it to the United States. Yes, Mitsubishi is still in business. They basically are very slowly turning themselves around here. But the Outlander PHEV is one of the largest plug-in SUVs that we have tried so far. So, with that said, what do you think?
Take it away.
Will do. I think ours looks great right off the bat when you first see it. It's silver. There's so much chrome all around, and the wheels kind
Blang,
of look
blang.
like that kind of Hockenheim basket weave off of a Corvette C7. The thing gets a lot of compliments at the pumps.
It does get a lot of compliments.
It looks
And,
good
It
for
looks
what it
good,
is.
but
Better than
when
it
it first
has
came
a
in,
right
it was
to
like,
look.
this is really kind of an old vehicle. It's been out there in the world for a while, and Mitsubishi hasn't spent a ton of money updating the interior. But everywhere you go, people say, "Wow, what is it? It looks great."
Everything looks so crazy these days that it may look a little older, but it's refreshingly unique to a lot of people. Anyway, I did a huge road trip with it, power was awesome all across the board. Down in the town, on the highway, there's just plenty of power whenever you need it. The seating, I've heard some people say it's uncomfortable, but I thought it was comfortable enough for a long haul, and it doesn't lull you into a meditative state. It keeps you alert.
In other words, it's got
plenty.
you feel the road a little bit.
Well, the cool thing, the rear seats recline really far back, too, so you can really lounge out back there. My only gripe with the car was if you're not taking advantage of the stored energy, plug-in energy, the tank's kind of small. I think it's less than 10 gallons, and I was only
it
getting
goes quickly.
It goes
300
quickly. You're
miles of
stopping
range.
quite
I
frequently.
will say, if you're in charge mode, which means the engine's just running constantly, even when you're not doing anything, it gets you back up pretty quickly. I mean, on a commute on the highway I mean, you can go from 0 up to like 10 miles and really not that long.
I like that you have control over when you're going to use the electric.
For sure.
The Pure EV. We've seen a number of vehicles where you don't have that these days. And it's really nice.
That's also going to be a cool one to try out in the snow, because I knew Mitsubishi is really they really have excellent traction systems.
They have a good reputation in that area.
Much more so than people would think.
That was, I was happy I had all-wheel drive in it, taking off from a stop on like a gravelly road, and it just hooked right up, which is welcome.
Nobody's mentioned the interior or the interface, which initially we thought was kind of a little old and a little small. Doesn't bother me, but, what do you think? You're more savvy electronically than I am.
I mean, I go right to CarPlay, and it's fine. I mean, everything's great.
And the Rockford audio is incredible. And I like the little quirks the shortcuts that they take inside are even kind of charming a little bit, like how the trim on the door integrates beautifully into the trim on the dash. But on the
it's hard to do.
But on the driver's side, you have the same door trim, and then there's nothing there on the driver's side. It just goes into nothing.
My favorite.
It's weird, but it's kind of neat.
My favorite quirk about Mitsubishis were, I don't know if it has it on this one, but when you turn it off and the center screen is going dark, it just says "see you," SEEYOU period, like no exclamation point or no like "see ya." Or,
it sounds like something out of a 60s
so
sci-fi.
Funny.
You got paranoia.
I don't know if it's funny or not, but I think it's hilarious.
That could freak you out. Who sees me?
See you. Okay, that's our 3 long terms, the Macan, the Altima, and the Outlander PHEV. Let's turn our attention now to our lightning round. We sort of claim that we have 30 seconds for each one of our members here to comment on an automotive topic, but really nobody's watching the clock. We do have a bell if someone goes on too long. Automakers are pushing the limits of performance at an astounding rate. 650 horsepower for an SUV. It's just like crazy numbers. 650 pound-feet of torque. They're pushing the performance at an astounding rate, and as fun as it may be for right now, will we ever reach the point where it's just too much power, or will we just go faster and faster until we can't anymore? This is not a new question. This question's been around for a long time, and we keep going faster. Comments?
I'll go first. I would say option B, we'll just keep going faster and faster until we can't anymore, and I'm okay with it. I love seeing it, but it's a pyramid game, As our numbers, our 0-60s are, down in the mid-2s or whatever now. As you get lower and lower, it gets harder and harder to gain another tenth. So I think we're going to keep pushing it, but
the law of diminishing returns, it's
correct.
Called. Yeah. It takes just as much effort to get that last little niche as you've put in forever. Most cases, and I get this, you must all get this question a lot. Most cases, you can't drive normally where you appreciate the power. But in a way, it's kind of reassuring knowing that it's there. If you do get into a certain spot, like
if you have to outrun a tornado or something,
outrun a tornado, or that spy is trying to hunt you down with a cruise missile. It's a boasting factor, don't you think?
That's what it's all about, marketing.
It's all about marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just ask Dodge. It's all about putting more and more power into it to say you have more than the other person. Yeah,
Greg, you're the youngest person at the table today. Give us the perspective.
That's saying a lot.
Give us the perspective of your generation. Do you care?
Yeah,
I know you do, but
I care, which means there are plenty of other people out there who are my age who also care. I almost wonder, though, like, will the performance of cars get to the point where, like, we physically can't drive them safely?
That's why
why do people just keep running into each other? Like, will it just will the wall be a literal wall of performance where people just run into and die?
Well, that's where automatic braking's all about. That's where putting all-wheel drive as standard is all about to move the torque around.
Well, and also, call me crazy right away if I'm completely heading off on a tangent here, but
good.
It seems as though technology is advancing with all this power and stuff, and it seems to me that they're kind of limiting what they're going to give you, what the ECU or what if something's limiting the amount of power you can have at any given time based on wheel slip, traction.
That's
They're
true,
really
I think.
cutting all the fun off. Like, granted, all the power may be there in a perfect situation, but perfect situations are very few.
You've
and
got
far
all the
between.
automotive nannies. I mean, a lot of cars you can't turn traction control off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can only get so much regardless of what's on paper.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, not to mention what Nissan was getting to with the GTR, with the GPS. You can't even unlock full performance unless the GPS recognizes you're at a track, not on a public road.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
So bragging rights, probably the numbers will keep going up, but it may not have that much effect in the real world.
yeah, and you just might yearn for 300 horsepower of just pure unbridled performance. That would be sad.
That would be sad.
Yeah, I mean, you can make that argument right now too. I mean, you could say it's a lot more fun to drive a slow car fast than it is to drive a fast car slow. So,
But we're getting 250 to 300 horsepower out of a 2-liter turbo 4 now.
yeah, and people still complain
Yeah.
on YouTube. It's not fast enough.
God. Okay.
I think it's perfect. My wife's EcoBoost Mustang is such a fun car to drive. At only 280
all that
horse on
weight,
regular gas.
weight off the front wheels. And
Yeah.
handles better. Okay, our viewer question is from Clint. I'm not sure where Clint calls home, but thank you,
The
Clint,
internet.
for writing in. The internet, probably. Okay. Technical question in a way. What are the differences between mild hybrids, full hybrids, and plug-in hybrids, and why should I care? Do you want me to take this?
You are
Somebody
the
who
right guy
wants
for
to
that.
I will take this. Okay, Clint. First of all, mild hybrids is a term, and these terms have been evolving. Mild hybrid is generally used today. If you watch MotorWeek and we say it's mild hybrid, that means it probably has a 48-volt electrical system. You need the extra capacity in order to do things like automatic stop-start efficiently and smoothly, and some of the other new electronics that are coming on board. So this is a trend. However, with that, they usually have a larger starter alternator, an electric motor that replaces the starter and the alternator and does all of that. So you can automatically stop, start, get more power to the system. And some of them are either belt-driven or gear-driven, and they actually do provide you a little bit of oomph when you're starting off from a stop or passing. Did I miss anything there?
Yeah, and then I would add very little EV-only driving.
Very little.
Just like the 20, 30 miles an hour at the most.
Right. They do have a battery.
An example would be, I think the Wrangler 2-liter is a
Wrangler,
mild
the
hybrid.
Ram.
And
all the
almost every recent
German-
BMW or Audi or Mercedes.
Yeah, there are
we've got
more
here,
than you
all the
think.
new ones.
All the German, luxury cars now come with mild hybrid systems.
But you can even get it on the Ram. It's the Ram pickup truck. It's got a mild hybrid system. Okay, the next level up, full hybrids. Okay, there are two types. There's a parallel hybrid and a series hybrid. These are your traditional hybrids. The parallel hybrid is what you see mostly. That's the Toyota Prius and most other hybrids. It means it's got two /engine motors. It's got an electric motor and a gas motor. They each can power the vehicle by themselves, or they can power it together. Both engines are connected to the gearbox. Then there's a series parallel, and the new term for that's come out now is range extender. And that's vehicles like the i3 and maybe the original Chevrolet Volt, where the
Outlander,
gasoline engine is basically a big generator and has little or no connection to the gearing and to the wheels. And let's see, plug-in hybrid is basically
go ahead, just to interrupt. And with that one, you can get speeds of up to 60, some maybe even 80 miles an hour on EV only,
Right.
but very limited for very limited time.
it could be as little, a couple of miles or less.
Yeah, but then anytime you back off the throttle, your gas engine shuts down and you keep everything running with the EV motor.
And most people, including myself, think that that's actually the perfect combination, more so than pure EVs or anything else. But now you can add the plug-in hybrid, which is basically a full hybrid, in most cases a parallel hybrid, with a larger battery. So you get more genuine EV range. For instance, we were talking about the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, which is a plug-in hybrid. What's the distance? 22 miles?
22 miles.
For a pure EV?
Yep.
And a lot of people, that's basically the distance of their commute to work.
I'm only 18 miles from home.
Anything to add there, Brian? PHEVs come in all different sizes. The Volt was like 50 miles range. Most typically, it's in the teens to low 20s.
Yes, similar to the parallel hybrid that you mentioned or series, just have pure EV, a lot more pure EV range. Yeah. And you can plug them in to charge the battery. You don't have to charge them with the vehicle.
And then the question is, why should he care?
Why should anyone care about it?
If you want to consume less
guy.
fuel, it is the coming thing. I think everybody recognizes that electrification of cars is inevitable, even if it's not pure EVs.
And you say your idea of the ideal is the regular plug-in, regular hybrid. I would say
a plug-in.
I would say the plug-in is the best of both worlds. Yeah.
It's the best of both worlds, and
and you can get those sweet parking spots.
If you can't find the place to charge up, you can keep on going.
Say we can't advance any more than plug-in hybrids. Let's forget about full EVs. What's the ideal range for a plug-in hybrid? Is there such a thing?
I thought the 50 to 60 that the original Volt had was ideal. I find 22 or 25 kind of like, why bother? Why bother to go to the expense of putting a big battery in it?
Yeah, but you have to look at it more of, you're getting that 20 miles every single day when you're generally only driving, 40 or 50 miles a day at most. So you're only running your engine half the time every day. That adds up.
People that had the Volt, the Chevrolet Volt, they told me they never ran the gas engine. As a matter of fact, this car had a system so that if you didn't run the gas engine, I don't know, once a month or so, it would start it up just to make sure it ran.
I think it kicks on more often than that.
And we should admit, Clint, that a lot of this has to do with countries and cities in Europe and in Asia where they're on the record as wanting to outlaw internal combustion engines in the city center. So you will need vehicles like these plug-in hybrids just to go to work. Or something more like a pure electric.
That leads me into a rant and rave.
Okay. Good. Perfect segue.
And this is a future rant because it doesn't even affect me directly. But let's just say if I had a plug-in hybrid, let's just say I had a plug-in EV, not even a hybrid. And I'm trying to plug it in, get those spots that have the chargers, get some juice, and blam, there's like a 22-mile range plug-in hybrid hogging up everyone there. That would make me furious.
Yeah, we talked about this before.
You've had that actually happen to you, right?
I mean, it is what it is. It's just more infrastructure matter than anything else. I mean,
there should be term limits on these things. It should
some of them have signs.
Yeah. You're talking about a very real problem that there's a lot of discussion. If somebody pulls their car into a charger, forget what type it is, do they sit there all day while they work an 8-hour day and hog it? Or does something come out and kick them off or make you come get the car so somebody else can charge up? Because a lot of these EVs will charge up 220 in 3 hours or so.
Yeah, and some of them have signs. I know I've seen those like PB, please be respectful, and don't leave your vehicle here all day.
PBR. But nobody's going to do that.
I haven't seen those signs.
Well, as with everything, the answer is always robots, right? So eventually, if
what do you have for lunch, dude?
If we're
Japanese,
if we're stuck with only 10 chargers at work and there's 20
I see where you're
cars,
going.
then once you're up to 80% on your car, a little robot comes over, unplugs it, goes to the car that's not being plugged in, all based on need and things like that.
Or since so many of the cars have automatic parking, the robot unplugs it and something triggers the automatic parking program.
Well, can't the robot just plug himself into it and charge the vehicle while he's there?
That would be a selfish robot.
Can't the parking lot be like a wireless charging pad? And
that would be the next thing, which we just did a Motor News on, which I think that is the ultimate goal, is to have wireless charging, so there's no plugging in or anything. Just the whole parking lot is one big charging pad.
And also, most people don't. A lot of people in the world, especially lives in apartment buildings, everywhere they don't have garages, they don't have convenient places to plug in. So, wireless charging. I don't know if they've solved the stray cat problem.
That or the snow removal.
The snow removal.
All kinds of stuff, man.
Thank you, Ben, for
People
that.
lay on their phones on the phone.
And I'd like to thank our audio engineer, Jim Bigwood, our podcast creator right here, Greg Carlos, and podcast producer, Greg, and podcast creator out there in the ether, Bob Mixter. Thank you all sitting at the table, Brian, Ben, and Greg, for contributing to our MotorWeek podcast 214. Be sure to watch MotorWeek on your local public television station and also on the Motor Trend cable network. If you can't find us, go to motorweek.org, pull down at the top, and put in your zip code, and where you can find us will pop up, and it's a pretty good system. Till next time, I'm John Davis. Thanks for being a part of MotorWeek.
You've been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com and State Farm. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series each week on your local PBS station.